This is Jared, AC7WH, Backyard Ham Radio. This time I'm going to show you something that I have been brainstorming on for a long time, and that is an easy setup and easy takedown antenna. Now, this may sound impossible to most hams, but for me personally, because at my current QTH as well as my previous QTH, I didn't have a permanent antenna set up, especially at this location. It's a beautiful location. I'm very thankful that I have this location. With that, I have a very limited space, backyard, or as in some parts of like the UK may be said as back garden. Because I have such a small area, I don't really want to put up a permanent antenna. Now I could put something up on the roof, but I feel like there's a lot of lightning strikes in this general area, so I don't want to take that risk, even though I know there are lightning arresters and other tips and tricks that I have heard and seen that can help to mitigate that issue, but still I'm not really willing to take that risk. I also thought of something like a DX Commander, and those sorts of things can be really great, but if I had it up permanently, I would need to have some sort of space essentially set aside in this backyard for that. And it's very, very limited that way. I feel like I would be tripping over the wires, and whether it's guy wires or whatever, I know I can bury the coax, but there's only so much that can be done without it just really encroaching on the space that I have. Especially since I'm not the only one who lives here, I don't want to be taking up all that space, causing a trip hazard or other safety hazards. So what I basically do every time I get on the air, I set up the equivalent of a POTA or SOTA antenna, as if I'm out doing parks on the air or summits on the air, but it's actually at my own home location here. So because of that, this is the thing that may sound like, oh my goodness, this is inconceivable. And that is that I have spent, I would say, at least as much time setting up my antenna and taking it down as I've actually spent on QSOs. Now, I've spent more time on the air calling CQ or listening to the band conditions or doing tuning and testing and that sort of thing. So my actual time with the radio has been considerably more than the time spent putting up and taking down my antennas. But the actual QSO time, especially since some QSOs are very brief, like 1 or 2 minutes, even though my personal preference is at least 5 to 10 or 15 minutes per QSO, nonetheless, a lot of them are quick contacts, 5, 9, and whatever, because that's what the other person wants to do, and I don't want to, throw them off of their preference that way. So I adjust as the QSO comes. I do my best to adjust, but I love those lengthy ones. Even like half an hour or an hour is awesome for me. Okay, anyway, I digress. And that is, quick focus. I am going to be setting up a nice antenna out here. It is somewhat of a compromised antenna. Some people say all antennas are a compromise. Well, that's debatable. But with that, this one should take only about 3 to 5 minutes to set up and should also be really quick to take down. So I'm going to take off my little microphone here, and I'm going to let you watch as I set this up. The camera may seem like it's at a bit of an unusual angle, but I wanted to try to show you how I'm extending the whip antenna. It's the Chameleon 25-foot antenna, and then the SuperPod tripod, and just some basic radials that I cut that will be more of a counterpoise. So anyhow, thankfully I'm on this deck, so I'm elevated off the ground more than a meter, I would say. So about 4 feet or so off the ground. And so that way I don't need to worry about quite as much of a loss with actual on-the-ground radials or on-the-ground vertical antenna. So anyway, I'm going to let you watch the time, and let's see how long it takes me to do this. All right, here we go. All right, watch me work. right, there we have it. So that was not terribly long. And let's take a look at how this turned out. So one of the tricky parts, even though these are short radials, is making sure that I get them untangled without it pulling too hard on the radials or twisting them or tangling them or whatever. But that's the setup there. I only have the legs partly extended so that I could get more distance out of the actual antenna. So it's going up there. Not too bad. I would say that's roughly 8 feet, maybe a bit more. And you'll notice here the wire mesh. That is just below the feed point of the antenna, so that should also help aid with a capacitive coupling for the counterpoise. And I also have these 3 wires as counterpoise wires. So that one is hanging down on the other side of the wire mesh. This one is going out here at an angle, and this one is going out here at an angle. So a little distance off the ground. Okay, so that is my setup. That wasn't too bad. And I'm going to try some contacts. All right, everyone, wish me well. This is AC7WH, Jared with Backyard Ham Radio 73.